You ever thought about building a guitar, but you don't really know where to start? Or are you an educator in the STEM fields and you're looking for a way to get kids roped into learning about careers in STEM? I might have something that could interest both of you. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rattlecan Guitar Restorations. I'm James. It has been a hot minute since we've had a video here on the channel. Sometimes life just gets in the way. Anyways, I've got some news that may be of interest to a couple of you. I got a giant booger on my glasses. That's what I got. Anyways, I'm back and I've got some news that might be of interest to both of you groups. If you don't know it, if you're not following things over on the Rattlecan Fab Shop channel, I am a student in the Computer Aided Manufacturing program at Sinclair Community College here in Dayton, Ohio. And I have been looking for classes to kind of fill my schedule out. And long story short, I found this class that is basically CNC manufacturing of a guitar. Well, that makes me happy in many different ways. And as I was walking through one of the buildings on my way to a machine class, I saw this big banner up on the wall, and I decided to check out the link, see what it was all about. And we'll do some screen sharing here. And this is where I ended up. I ended up at the STEM guitarbuilding.org website. And the National STEM Guitar Project is it is an educational effort that works in concert with funding from the National Science Foundation. Let's scroll down a little bit. In partnership with the National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education Centers, they've got grants, and what they do is they train educators on how to apply STEM concepts to guitar building. And they use that model to get middle school, high school, and community college level students interested in building guitars, and at the same time learning all about STEM concepts. STEM, if you don't know, is science, technology, engineering, and math. I think they're throwing, like everything else, there's all kinds of stuff jumping on the bandwagon. There's art, there's music, there's all kinds of stuff. But manufacturers are finding harder and harder. It's difficult to find workers who have some semblance of a STEM background with which they can use to become productive employees. And so there is a push on for both boys and girls to get them involved in the STEM fields and see that as a viable pathway to a career. So if you go to this guitarbuilding.org website, one of the first things that you see is this STEM Guitar Project Educator Workshop. I don't know if anybody who sees this is going to be able to take advantage of it for this year, but they do teacher workshops. It's a 5-day workshop, and it's a train the trainer kind of thing, from what I can understand. I'm not an educator. I don't know the educator lingo. If somebody who watches this channel is or is somewhat involved in this, I'd love to hear from you so that you can kind of set us straight. But they will teach you how to teach your students to build an instrument. And at these workshops, they come away with, if not a complete instrument, at least a majority of a built instrument And one of the things that got me excited and got me to the point where I felt I wanted to take time to make an episode to show this to you was this map. And this interactive map shows you how many places around the country are utilizing this teaching model. Now, I am exceedingly spoiled because I live in Dayton, Ohio. I also happen to go to Sinclair Community College, which just happens to be one of the manufacturing centers for the kits that are used in these classes. I'm also an enrolled student in the guitar building class starting in I think it's a month, maybe even less than a month. Hold on, I need some beverage here. Getting excited talking about this. Well, but that sounds good. So if you look at this list, I had no idea that this program was such a big deal. I have a friend who has some involvement in the course, and I'm just talking about this out of my own free will. I'm not sponsored. I've not been asked to do this, but in talks with him, our manufacturing facility there at Sinclair, they can put out, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 guitar bodies in a year if they wanted to. It's actually a very nice setup. I've taken a tour through the manufacturing area. 3 years ago, I took a tour through the classroom area, which is over in, I think it's in Building 8. And it's a cool deal. I mean, it's the real deal. So if you scroll down this list, here's what I find exciting, because I put something on, I think it was a Facebook post a while ago that I was signed up for this class, and one of the replies was, well, too bad I don't live near you. And that's kind of what I was thinking. It is too bad. Sure, but as I look through this is just the drop-down menu for Ohio. The Cuyahoga Community College is involved in this program. The David H. Ponitz Career Tech Center. Greene County Career Center. I know they do adult education classes because that's where I took my very first intro to welding class, was at Greene County Career Center. Mesa Community College, Sinclair Community College, obviously. Trumbull Career and Technical Center, United Technology Center. Plus, there's a whole bunch of school districts. I don't know how many of these are public schools. I don't know how many of these are private schools. I know that Carroll High School is a private Catholic high school here in town. I've taken an adult woodworking course through that high school on the weekends. And if you, let's just pick, of course, if you pick California, there's a metric crap ton of places that you might be able to go there. But you can go, again, guitarbuilding.org, and it's on the splash page where you come into this, and you can just mouse over your state to see if something like that is in your area. And it may be in a community college. It might be worth inquiring to, a local school system. Say if you know where Hanford High School is. I don't have any idea where Hanford High School is in Washington State. They may currently do, or may be, somebody asks them, they might be willing to run this as an adult course in the summer. I don't know. I'm sure that the people at Hanford High School are fantastic people, but I don't know what their budget situation is look like, and I don't know what their staffing is like, but all they can do is say no. So that map is pretty cool. Now, I don't know what's going on with North and South Dakota. Anyone? There's nothing there. I know there's a couple of people building stuff there in Sioux Falls. I know they might be interested in that. Anyways, so that was fairly exciting for me, was to find this map and to realize how many different places around the country are doing something along the lines of what I'll be starting in the fall. Now there is a lot of information on this website. Now, some of their links are broken, like this guitar. This guitar illustration that you're supposed to be able to click on to the guitar setup. These are all broken links. These are all they're all 404 bad link on there. But if you mess around on the website and you do some exploring, there are some pretty interesting pieces of information that you can find. One of them that I found is a suggested schedule for a 15-week or a 1-semester class. And I think what's interesting is your initial woodworking and body sculpting, that goes for 4 weeks. And then that kind of overlaps into the fretboard and the neck. And then that kind of overlaps into finishing, sealing, and painting, and then into fretting, into electronics, into setup and intonation, and then you have a final evaluation. It also has a chart down here that will tell you typically how many hours a student is going to spend on each stage. Now, people come into these classes with all kinds of experience up to nothing. So you got to take these numbers with a grain of salt. You may get, a woodworker in your class who knows absolutely nothing about instruments. And while he is going to have an invaluable amount of information to offer you about certain techniques in woodworking, when you're trying to, explain to him the concept of how you come up with the distance from fret to fret, he is maybe little or no help to you. And vice versa. You may have someone who comes in that is just a consummate musician, but if you tell them to point you to what, I need you to take this over to the bandsaw and cut it, they may look at you and say, I don't know what a bandsaw is. Food for thought. I thought that was very interesting. Something else that I found is that there is a grading rubric on here. Rubric, if you've been out of school for a while, this is a way I think it's a way to show transparency. That if you are grading something for someone, it's not just a pass or fail. I hated getting papers and it said A-, and you look on the paper and that's all there is. Well, what did I miss out on? Did my charming personality not come through this paper? Is that, I don't understand. Or a rubric removes that. It will tell you that in the category of sanding, you can get anywhere from 0 to 3 points. 0, more than 8 areas of sanding scratches or machine tool marks, which we also call apprentice marks. Or did you sand your neck with 80 grit sandpaper and you stopped there? 4 to 8 areas of sanding scratches, less than 4 areas will get you 2 points, and 3 points will get you no scratches, no machine tool marks. And then it will tell you here, especially in the end grain. If you don't know a lot about woodworking, that might clue you into the fact that you might want to pay attention to your finishing on the end grain areas. Now, here's another thing that I really like about this, and they've started to implement this over in the machining program that I'm in, is that you will get a grading rubric like this, or a specification rubric, and it will have a column for you to evaluate yourself, and then it will also have an area where it will allow your teacher to evaluate you, because what you may think is an outstanding job, if this instructor has a little more experience in the field than you do, and they look at things and they're like, you may think this looks really good, but have you looked over here in this corner? Have you looked here where the neck pocket kind of makes a 90-degree turn onto the top? They may have some other ideas for you to consider, but that covers sanding, paint and finish, frets seated, frets crowned, Fret ends flush and end bevel. Fret ends smooth. Well, there's 4 areas just on frets. String nut installation, tuners installed correctly. The body to neck joint, are the strings installed correctly? Because we all know that guy whose guitar looks like he's been fishing and he got a great big giant bird's nest on there instead of some nicely wrapped strings. Is the instrument in tune? What about your neck relief? It has no neck relief, or you've got a banana neck. Your relief is more than 20 thou. Your relief is between 10 thou and 20 thou. String height at the string nut. String heights at the last fret. The intonation, it's either, right, wrong, or somewhere in between. Do all the frets play? Do you have a bad spot? Do you have a dead fret in there? Does the jack work? Pickup heights, soldering techniques, wiring, do all the controls work, and do they work the way they're supposed to? And then, did you strip your screws out? If you're not in the class, okay. If you are learning the skill of repairing, and even if you're buying a kit, assembling an instrument, this is pretty handy for you to use as a checklist. I thought that was quite handy. There is also a section in here. There we go. There is also a section in here about acoustic guitar anatomy and guitar cost. Now, there are different, depending on if you're able to get into one of these programs. Some of them teach electric guitars, some of them teach acoustic guitar assembly, and some of them, it appears, are focused on CNC. Again, if you're someone who's involved in this and you can shed some light, comment section down beneath the sermon notes, I would love to hear from you, as well as the 4 or 5 people that follow this channel would also like you to hear. One of the things that you're going to see is there are these lesson plans, and these lesson plans are geared towards not only the educator giving them directions that they need to go, but also in here it tells you what standards you are trying to reinforce. So, if this one says CCSS math content HSN-Q.A.2, define appropriate quantities for the purpose of descriptive modeling. Somewhere there's a mathematics course that is teaching this standard. And if you are a math teacher and you are attempting to get this standard across to people, this might be a good way to help them do that. It talks about, there's a little bit of stringed instrument. There's some stringed instrument technology. There's some definitions. It talks about major manufacturers. It tells you parts of, in this case, an acoustic guitar and what they're called. And then as we continue on down here, again, this is good for different parts. If you're wanting to learn about this, got some illustrations. Like here's a dovetail joint that they're going to use here. Here's another blown up diagram here, and then there are some links here. This one particularly comes from breedlovemusic.com. There are industry partners all throughout here. StuMac, LMI, All Parts, Taylor, Martin, Fender. I mean, there's some big names that are kind of involved in this program. But one of the parts that you are doing is you have to sit down, you have to make a budget. You have to find at a particular website a part number for side and back set. Could be 3, could be 4 pieces of wood. You have to have a top, you have to have an end block, a neck block. Perfect. You may not even know what these pieces are, but this class is going to help you along that track. And if you're a teacher, these parts are going to help you get a student who may really only be interested in music understand that his or her career could certainly be enhanced by understanding how an instrument is made, and in the course of that, understanding how budgets come into play, how Excel spreadsheets come into play. There is an Excel spreadsheet in here for you to figure out the length of fingerboard in between each one of the frets. There's a formula for that, and that formula is done by math. I think that just looks great. And then there are just other areas. There's some really good sciencey teaching stuff that goes in here, talking about the physics of music waves, how to figure out how many board feet of whatever it is you need, to build this, instrument, the mathematics of musical scales. Sometimes people are astounded when they find out that sound and music is math. Yeah, like math. So anyways, I just wanted to share that website with you. Take a look at all of these drop downs to see if that is something in your area that's available, because that would be fantastic. I can tell you that my course is running on a Saturday morning. It runs from 8 to 11:30 or noon, something like that. And it's a full semester, 16-week college credit course. Right now, I want to say, I think my course is $300 or something like that. $303 or something like that. Not horrible. My activity fee, which is, I don't have a book that I have to get. I have a guitar kit that I have to pay for. I basically just buy a ticket in the bookstore, and it's $200, and that is a guitar kit that I will use in the CNC manufacturing course. And that has components from the mechanics and the electronics. It looks like they come in a box from StewMac, because there's an unboxing video in the video section in there, where one of the people that's involved in the program is basically showing you what you get in your kit, and she opens up a box, and it's a StewMac box, and that has it has resistors in there. It has your potentiometers in there, your wiring, your tuners, your bridges, your frets. I mean, you get 2 sticks of fret wire, so you're gonna cut fret wire by yourself. I mean, this sounds. I'm really excited to go and do this, because if you know me, I'm never so smart that I can't learn something. I can learn something from a tree stump if I put my mind to it. And to be in a room with someone captive for 16 weeks, my mindset is I've got 16 weeks to get all of those years of experience that you have in your head. I have to figure out how to get as much of that into my head. And I only have 16 weeks to do it. And that's why I ask questions. And, I continually bring things forth to people and say, hey, I finished this, but what about this? Hey, I did this, but what about this little thing? What if I do this to this instead of doing this? What happens there? Because I know that my instructors have got, in many cases, decades of knowledge stored inside of their head. And I want to get as much of that as I can, because that is it's a good use of my money. There is no credit card tuition program. There is no federal grant, for someone like me. When I pay my bill, I pay it with, hard-earned American pesos. So I want to get as much out of any program that I take that I can. So if you're into building guitars, if you want to learn more about building guitars, or if you are a teacher, middle school, high school, community college, maybe even college, take a look at this, guitarbuilding.org, and see if that is something that is available in your area. And even if it's not available in your area, there's a lot of great information on here that you can go through, and you can get what we called when I was in nursing school, it wasn't enough for me to be presented with a situation where there was a patient with a bullet hole. And my instinct is to put my finger in that bullet hole, and they would ask me, why? And the answer is because I know that right around there's an artery. And if I put my finger in there and feel around, I can find that artery and I can pinch that off, and I can stop that bleeding. That is the rationale for why I stuck my finger in the bullet hole. There's a lot of information on that website that is, you do this thing in guitar building, here's the science behind it. And that's fantastic, because as instrument builders, as instrument repair people, as instrument technicians, we can always get smarter. We can always do our craft better, especially if you're like me. So this is a chance to do that. So take a look at that map, put some feelers out, and see if that is something that you can be able to use to make you a better you. Anyways, I'm James. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Hey, if you like this episode of Rattlecan Guitar Restorations, you might want to check this video out as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, consider stepping over to our Patreon page and giving that a look. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.